For decades, the Soviet Union believed its air defenses could destroy anything that entered their skies. Their radar systems stretched across entire continents, their missile batteries waited constantly for an attack, and their interceptor pilots trained for the moment American bombers would appear over the horizon. But during the Cold War, the United States created something so advanced, so unbelievably fast, that the Soviets could do almost nothing to stop it. High above the Earth, faster than a rifle bullet and flying near the edge of space, the SR-71 Blackbird became one of the greatest symbols of American technological dominance ever built. The Blackbird was born during one of the most dangerous periods in human history. The United States and the Soviet Union were trapped in a silent war of espionage, nuclear threats, and military competition. Both sides desperately wanted information about the other. They wanted to know where missiles were hidden, where submarines were stationed, and what secret weapons were being developed behind closed borders. America needed eyes inside the Soviet Union, but getting those eyes there was becoming increasingly dangerous. Before the SR-71, the United States relied on the U-2 spy plane. It could fly higher than most Soviet aircraft and missiles could reach, and for years Americans believed it was untouchable. But in 1960, a Soviet missile shot one down over Soviet territory. The incident shocked Washington. Suddenly, America realized that traditional spy aircraft were no longer enough. If the Soviets could destroy the U-2, then the next aircraft would need to be something completely different, something almost impossible to intercept. What Lockheed engineers created sounded like science fiction. The SR-71 Blackbird could fly over 3 times the speed of sound at altitudes above 85,000 feet. Pilots flying the aircraft could actually see the curve of the Earth beneath them. At those speeds, the Blackbird generated so much heat from air friction that parts of the aircraft became hot enough to burn skin on contact. Ordinary aluminum would melt under those conditions, so engineers built most of the aircraft from titanium. Ironically, much of that titanium secretly came from the Soviet Union itself. Without realizing it, the Soviets were supplying materials for the very aircraft that would spy on them. Everything about the Blackbird was designed around survival. It carried no bombs, no guns, and no missiles. Its greatest weapon was speed. Soviet radar operators could sometimes detect the aircraft, but stopping it was another matter entirely. Missiles were launched again and again in attempts to destroy it, but the SR-71 simply outran them. Pilots were even instructed not to make aggressive, evasive maneuvers when missiles approached, because at Mach 3, violent turns could destroy the aircraft. Instead, they would simply accelerate. Imagine being a Soviet interceptor pilot watching your radar lock onto the target, only to realize that the aircraft ahead of you was still pulling away. The SR-71 became more than just a spy plane. It became a psychological weapon. Every successful mission reminded the Soviet Union that the United States possessed technology years ahead of anything they could reliably counter. The aircraft operated around the world, from North Korea to the Middle East, gathering intelligence while remaining nearly impossible to stop. Even its sonic booms became legendary. People on the ground often heard the Blackbird before they ever understood what had passed overhead. Despite its incredible success, the SR-71 was expensive to operate. Each flight required massive support crews, aerial refueling, and constant maintenance. By the late 1980s, satellites and drones were beginning to replace many of its missions at a much lower cost. In 1998, the Blackbird was officially retired, yet even decades later it still holds records that modern aircraft struggle to match. And perhaps the most incredible part of the Blackbird's story is this. Despite thousands of attempted interceptions and missile launches during the Cold War, no enemy ever shot one down. The Soviet Union spent years trying to catch the SR-71 Blackbird, but the aircraft had been built for one purpose above all else: to prove that American engineering had reached a level the rest of the world could barely comprehend.